Roman Josi will pass a career milestone tonight, and the Predators look to get back into the wildcard race.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first stop of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. I want to start off by shouting out all of our Locked On Predators podcast community and our everydayers who tune in to chat all things Preds. My name is Jack Williams, and I am the Nashville Predators beat writer for the Hockey News. And before we jump into this milestone monumental episode, just want to talk about a little bit different of the setup here. Did some camera adjustments, some lighting adjustments, and some mic adjustments here after doing the podcast for about a month here. Kind of had a 1 month checkup just to see how things were going, see what was being done well, what could be done better, and just kind of set everything into motion right now. So if you guys have noticed things that are a little bit different, whether it be even the camera angle or the lighting, that's because we made a little bit of a switch up here. So we're going to continue rolling with that. You guys didn't come here to hear about the behind the scenes of the podcast. You came here to talk about Preds and chat all things Preds, and a big moment coming up here for Roman Josi on Thursday night against the Ottawa Senators. That will be Roman Josi's 1,000th career game. Monumental for the guy. Completely deserving of the honor. One of the best defensemen all time in this league, going to go down in history as one of the best, maybe even one of the best Predators of all time. And we're going to go through just the moments that have made him who he is, these stat lines that, as I was putting this script together, this episode together, just reading through what he's accomplished, it's been extremely impressive and really highlighted to me just how good of a player he is, and just really in this league how underappreciated he is as well. One of the treats that I've had in joining this beat is getting to talk with him, getting to know him a little bit more. Watching from a distance, you kind of see him as, just another player, kind of a quiet defenseman that kind of goes about his way, but is one of the more elite players, one of the more steady defensemen here in the league that's really dependable. But coming onto this beat and meeting him and getting to talk to him, you just understand how great of a character he is, how good of a stand-up individual he is. It's just easy to talk to, willing to talk to anybody. And that is so appreciative of any media member here and anyone in the community. He's really dedicated to Nashville community, and just a great all-around person. But we'll get into it and talk about just what led up to this and what is going to eventually lead into hopefully a Hall of Fame induction after he is retired. But he was selected 38th overall by the Predators in the 2008 draft. He is from Bern, Switzerland, and we'll talk about his Swiss legacy later in this episode because it is an important role to who he is. And he's a Bern guy through and through. He's a hometown kid. He played for SC Bern from 2006 to 2010. His hometown team, that's where he was drafted out of. And when he got to Nashville, he didn't play immediately. For the 2010-11 season, he was in Milwaukee, and then he split time in the 2011-2012 season between Milwaukee and Nashville, like a lot of guys we see. Good thing to put in mind, too, when we're talking about all the prospect pools that are going down in Milwaukee right now, and a lot of the guys that, want to come up. Some guys are going back and forth. Debatably, one of the best Predators players of all time didn't jump up onto that Nashville roster immediately. He spent some time down in Milwaukee, did his time before jumping into a full-time role here in Nashville. Unfortunately, that full-time role was delayed a little bit beyond his time in Milwaukee. That first season that he played was the 2012-2013 season. That was when he came into a full-time role in Nashville. That was the same year of the NHL lockout. So he played those first 2 games of that calendar year with SC Bern before coming up into Nashville, and he has not left since. He has been a mainstay in Nashville. The accumulated totals over right now, it is 999 games. That is 198 goals, 554 assists, and 752 points. Another milestone he could possibly hit in this game. And it makes sense in just the way he's been moving and the pace he's been on right now and the scoring he's put into, and having 10 points in 5 games, 10 points for 5 games. Last week, it was the 7 points in 3 games that earned him his second star of the week in the NHL. Pacey's moving right now. That 1,000th game, he could score his 200th career goal in that game at sitting at 198. But right now, the franchise records he owns, the list is endless here. The list is long, y'all. It is long. Most games played by a Nashville Predator, and will be the first Nashville Predator to play 1,000 career games. And I'm talking about just with one team. I'm not talking about 1,000 games sprinkled around the board. He has been locked in with one team to play 1,000 career games. According to a hockey database site, a hockey stat site, can't think of the name of it right now, but it's very trusted. He is the 84th player to play 1,000 games with just one team. That ties Claude Giroux, who had 1,000. I had points down 1,000 games with the Philadelphia Flyers. He then was traded to the Florida Panthers and is now with the Ottawa Senators. But he did log his 1,000 games specifically with the Philadelphia Flyers. But he's tied Roman Josi, back to him. He's tied with David Legwand with the most seasons played with the Predators with 15. Assuming he comes back next year, which there shouldn't be anything to prevent that, he will pass that record and it will be 16 seasons for he is third in goals as a Predator with 198. He has the most assists with 554. Most points as a Nashville Predator with 752. However, Philip Forsberg is likely going to pass that, and he's a offensive player. He's a little bit younger too. Philip Forsberg is at 720, so he's likely going to catch up to that. Roman Josi will probably sit in that first spot for a while. He's still up there right now, but he'll have that for a little bit longer before Forsberg will likely eventually catch him. So 720 points for Philip Forsberg. He will likely get that in the future. But as for now, Roman Josi owns that role. Most goals by a Predators defenseman and most multi-point games at 181. And then talking about his NHL records, this is just Nashville stuff we've been talking about here. He's the second fastest active defenseman to reach 600 career points in his NHL career. And then the second defenseman to lead an active NHL franchise points. The last guy to do that was a guy named Ray Bourque, who was a legend in Boston and then is really widely known for his Stanley Cup championship he won in 2001 with the Colorado Avalanche after spending over 20 years in the NHL. His final year, he left Boston, did his final year with Colorado, and got that elusive Stanley Cup championship and was able to retire with that. But then I still have more stats I have to go through. This guy is unbelievable. And the international stats, we have not gotten into that yet, but he is, looking at all of this, especially I think what stands out to me is the most is how fast he's able to do a lot of this stuff. And especially when you're in the same breath as Ray Bourque, that's crazy. That's impressive. And just the consistency, the battle, and just consistency in battle, like I said, in the fight to just stand as one of the best players, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, one of the best defensemen, if not the best defenseman of this generation right now. Just consistent, just a guy outside of his character. He just works hard, is able to get these points. He doesn't do it really flashy. He's just a strong, consistent player. And these stats put it out here that he's just grinding to get all those points. And he's a guy that this team can trust on. This team has built an identity around. And he's been an important part of what this team has become and what this franchise has become. You could talk about all the way in the early days and how important of a role that, guys like Pekka Rinne and Shea Weber played in introducing this franchise in the the franchise was created in the 90s, but really, putting it in the ground and really starting to spread the message that we are Nashville's team, we are Smashville, and kind of planted the flag with Nashville and the NHL. You can talk about guys like Pekka Rinne and Shea Weber and how important they play a role into those beginning years, those first 10 years. And then you go into the next generation, which we go into the thick of the 2010s, now into the 2020s with guys like Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and UC Saros. They hold the flag with that next step of the generation. And then we have the future coming up where guys like Brady Martin may play a big role, Luke Evangelista, whoever, if the Preds get a big draft pick coming up here, whoever they may play into that role, guys they have in Milwaukee right now that will eventually come up and be strong, will introduce that next generation of Preds players. But Roman Josi has been critical in that middle section of now that generation of the Predators, carrying the legacy of essentially this being Smashville. And we'll talk about in the next segment about how he is holding up that Smashville legacy and it being a team that has good defenders that come out of it. He's just been critical. I don't want to run around circles forever about this, but he's just been so critical to this team, so important to this team. And in my opinion, just one of the most underrated players in the NHL, period. I mean, putting this together and like stepping out of it as well as somebody who grew up watching a lot of hockey in the Central Division and not knowing too much about Nashville, but knowing the names that popped up. I never really consumed just how dominant Roman Josi was in the moment and how there he was, especially in jumping out of the NHL sense, in the European sense, in Switzerland, and bringing their game to a higher level. His role in NHL defensemen in that generation from 2010 to 2019, 2020, so critical. And he's still putting up great numbers to this day now, but he's a legend. He's a legend. And him to get up to 1,000 games here is amazing. But I'm not done reading off stats, y'all. I had to take a little break there and just get my opinion out on all this. Excuse me, y'all. It's really dry in the apartment here as we prepare for whatever's going to happen on Saturday and Sunday with the snow. So we've been cranking up the heat a little bit, and that's dried out the apartment a bit. So I have a little bit of a cough, so I apologize for any coughing that will come on. I am trying to suppress it as the best I can. But more Roman Josi stats. 4-time NHL All-Star, 3-time first-team All-Star, 2020 Norris winner. He was kind of snubbed out for that 2022 Norris trophy that would have added another trophy to his case. It's going to be interesting to see how he puts himself into that conversation nowadays, especially when the identity of the defenseman has changed a little bit. When you have guys like Cale Makar, who Roman Josi's a guy that still pushes play a little bit more, but guys like Cale Makar that are even more explosive, more offensively involved, even faster. And Roman Josi is still one of the best defensemen right now and one of the best defensemen over the past 10, 15 years in the league. But the identity of what the defenseman is and what people who choose the awards look for has completely changed. So that will even cement more onto Roman Josi's legacy if he's able to win a Norris in this generation right now. But that's still kind of there at the same time too, and just talking about how he's able to keep his play consistent and still be in as one of the top defensemen in the league. According to NHL's fantasy stats, they do a nice little fantasy breakdown for everybody and guys and gals who play fantasy hockey. They break down the best players in each area of the game. Roman Josi right now at his age and how long he's been playing is still the 15th best defenseman in the NHL, which is impressive to say. His international stats, highest scoring Swiss-born NHL player. He passed Mark Streit for that, who played a critical role as the captain of the Islanders in the Islanders' very, very dark days, that being the late 2000s. He's a 2-time Olympian, 2014, and is going to be going back to the games in 2026. He's a 3-time IIHF silver medalist at the World Championships. He is a World Cup of Hockey runner-up with Team Europe that back in 2016. He is a 2013 IIHF World Championship MVP, 2013, 2024 IIHF World Championship Best Defenseman, and made the All-Star team as well. Talking about his impact for Team Switzerland and Swiss hockey. And he'll tell you he hasn't had the biggest impact, and he's a humble guy, and we'll talk about everyone else that's involved. And there are a lot of Swiss guys that have really gone up, but if you pinpoint it and you look at it straightforward, it's been a lot that's filtered through him. And just talking about, I think I've mentioned this in a past episode, that there are the 6 hockey powers in the world, that being the United States, Canada, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and Czechia. And then beyond that, it kind of filters through a little bit more between Germany, Switzerland, Denmark, Latvia, Kazakhstan, Austria. It becomes a little bit clumped up there. But over the past, I'd say 5-7 years, Switzerland has made a massive push to be included in that conversation of the top 6 teams in the country. As we've seen at the IIHFs, they are playing for silver medals. They are playing in that gold medal championship game constantly. They continue to chase that goal that they have to win a gold medal at the World Championships. They're going into the Olympics as a team that could be a dark horse. You have a good amount of NHLers on that. A lot of that has been centralized in what Roman Josi has done, and he has paralleled that timeline with Swiss hockey growth with his NHL career. So he'll tell you, he'll be humble and say it was a group effort. He's guided that group with Switzerland in becoming a world hockey power. And then just his impact in Nashville. I read a little bit about this as well. You guys probably have a ton of stories to tell about them, and I'd love to read them. If you guys want to put them in the comments, if you guys want to put them anywhere, whether it be Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, would love to read them and incorporate them in a story or an article, because I'd love to hear them. I'd love hearing about how you guys connect with these players and how you've interacted with them. Though that makes some of the best stories to read, and just the connection between players getting out into the community, getting to know the fans is special, to say the least. But he's made a major impact in the national community, and, just doing a quick Wikipedia search on the stuff he's done when things were paused during the 2020 season, he got out and involved in the Nashville community. There were some really bad storms and tornadoes that came through Nashville at the time, and he donated some of his own money to help that benefit and, help whatever way he can. He is very involved in the Nashville community. And I could go on too about how he's built hockey here in Nashville, kind of taking the torch from Shea Weber and just continuing that legacy of Smashville on, especially building hockey in an untraditional market. But he's just a good guy. He's a great player, and his impact is felt. And it's just great that his 1,000 games can be celebrated here coming up, and thankfully get him in before whatever happens this weekend with the weather may or may not cancel the Utah game. Whatever is going to happen won't be here on Thursday. That Ottawa Senators game is happening, and it will be exciting to be able to celebrate Roman Josi's 1,000 career games right now. And just a good season he's having too. 8 goals, 20 assists, 28 points in 37 games played. He has been massive for the Predators, and we will talk about that in the next segment, as he feels like the only guy that's really shown up this year on the defense, which is very unorthodox for the Predators. But we're going to take a break here, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is the defense and how it needs to be doing better. That is coming up after the break. There is nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it's unmatched. Watching at home is great, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that's used to get in the way was actually getting tickets, long queues, endless screens, and price changing at checkout. That's why the Gametime app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I pulled up the Gametime app to check out upcoming NHL games. So, if you guys want to be in the stands for Roman Josi's 1,000th career game, that might be a harder ticket to get, but the deals on Gametime will definitely be there. So I would highly encourage you guys, if you want to be there to witness a historical moment, Roman Josi getting 1,000 career games, definitely be there, definitely be seated. Absolutely. And then if you guys are looking for a cheap game, I don't know how many people are going to Saturday's game with the weather coming in, but Gametime will definitely have some fantastic fantastic deals. We're talking about that game. But it's always surprising to see how cheap you can get tickets and find great seats for. Fees are included. Know your upfront total with no surprises at checkout. That is clutch. A lot of other ticketing apps don't do that. They kind of load it on a little bit more at the end, and you're like, what? Gametime cuts that all out, and you see what you're going to get right up front. The app is incredibly easy to use. Browsing, comparing, and buying tickets took just minutes. One of my favorite features is seeing the view from my seat before buying, so I know exactly what I'm getting. The zone deals are clutch. You choose your section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save even more. Seeing NHL tickets for as low as $25 makes it easy to plan a game night. I really like that fees are included up front, so the price you pay is the price. The price you see is the price you pay. Knowing tickets are backed by the Gametime guarantee gives me real peace of mind. So take the guesswork into buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That is LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So now the defense, and I spent 20 minutes talking about Roman Josi and how great he's been, and he's deserved every one of those minutes. Absolutely. So I'm going to try to put myself on a leash as much as I can in talking about this, because we have one more segment to get to preview the Ottawa game, because there is still a hockey game happening. It's not just going to be a big party for Roman Josi, even though he deserves it, but so let's get into this, in that Yossi's been essentially carrying the defense this year. And I read off his stats, and I said with NHL's fantasy rankings, he is the 15th best defenseman in the league. And it clearly shows, because he's pushing play. He's playing straightforward defense. He has good support. And that doesn't require much, in my opinion, because you just need a guy to stay back, and Roman kind of does all the work. Even last game, where they were playing the Sabres, and it was a lot of, their star players had to create a lot of those opportunities. The way Roman Josi was able to get into the zone, and his stick work, by the way, another very underrated part of his game, crisp, unbelievable. He has been keeping this afloat, essentially, because the offense has seemingly found its way, and the defense just has not been there the entire year. The Predators have allowed the fourth most goals on average in the NHL. Excuse me, y'all. I needed to take a sip of my water. Again, it is very dry in here, but the Predators have allowed the fourth most goals on average at the NHL. They're averaging 3.39 per game. And again, that is just not on the goalies completely. And I think, again, that's why I like this fan base, is they understand it's not on the goalie every night. A lot of this has been on the defense. And I want to go back to a comment that Barry Trotz made. I need to stop banging my desk because it shakes the camera. I want to go back to a comment that Barry Trotz made when he kind of summarized the free agency and how they didn't do too much and what they did, why they did in that time. And he said, oh, well, the reason why we brought in defensemen is because our main focus was to fix the defense. And you saw I put air quotations up if you're watching. And then he was asked about acquiring centers, and he said, well, the wingers and the defense are going to have to step up to fill up the void down the middle. Now the void down the middle, seemingly it's been kind of opposite, honestly. The center depth has not been awful this year. Between Ryan O'Reilly is going to be clutch no matter what. Michael McCarron and the fourth line are doing what they need to do. Eric Halla's game has turned around a little bit more. The only issue that's been happening with the center depth is Fedor Svechkov, which the reason I've come to why he's not going down right now is that I think the Predators, I think they give him a little bit of a longer leash and wanting to do more and give him more time to develop completely and ground his game before sending him down to Milwaukee. But another reason why I think he's not going down to Milwaukee right now is because of the Olympic break, and that they don't want to bring guys up that are going to come up here and then sit for 2 weeks and not do anything. They want those guys to continue playing. So expect some moves after the Olympics. And I say that with the Olympics still being like a few weeks out from the start of it. And then we're still like a month away maybe even more from when they end. So that's my reason why Fedor Svechkov is still staying in Nashville and some other guys that I'll get into. But his whole thing was the center depth doesn't look as bad as it did last year, but the defense does. And the defense does not look like it's been fixed. And the defense just has not been supporting the way Barry Trotz said it needed to be. And we'll go down the line here. The only people in my mind who are like absolved of this are Roman Josi and Nick Blankenburg. And Nick Blankenburg is because he's the guy who stepped up. He's the guy, they needed a defenseman to step up and get the job done because no one else has been really performing to their standards. And Nick Blankenburg said, hey, I'm going to overperform and give more. And he has given more. He's been fantastic. He's given a great 19-point boost. He filled a specific scoring gap, in my opinion, when Roman Josi was gone. He didn't fill it. It absolutely did not fill it completely. That's just a gap that you don't fill when that player is gone. But he stepped up. He's stabilized, and he's playing really good, straightforward hockey, even as a guy that doesn't fit the Barry Trotz Smashville mold of everything. And that being, we want big, tall guys, and he's a smaller guy, but I mean, he's getting the job done completely. He's been crucial for them. Now, I mean, Nick Perbix has been way underperforming. That's the one guy that's been underperforming. A -12, and he's just, I mean, he just kind of disappears on the ice. He just hasn't had any impact this year. He's scored here and there, but like, it's just, he's felt almost invisible on the ice this year. And this was one of two guys that Barry Trotz said, we're going to bring in and fix the defense. And he's been invisible out there. Nick Hague has been better as of late. He's struggling to stay out of the box. He has the second most penalty minutes on the team at 34. The first is Michael McCarron, and you're not going to, it's just that's not fixable. And that's just what he is. And I think the Predators have him on the team for what he's that. But I go with Nick Hague again. He's playing better as of late, but it's the whole thing of Barry Trotz like, we're going to put him on the first pairing, and they haven't gotten a lot of opportunities to play a lot. Yes. But he's just, I mean, even in this last game they played against the Sabres, he didn't look good. And it's been a lot of that this year. Brady Shea has been better than last season, but last season it was a nightmare for him. He has 14 assists and he's logging heavy ice time. So, I mean, they are utilizing him. He is setting up plays. He might not be scoring the puck, but he's finding ways to get involved completely. Andrew Brunette said he's played a major role in leadership in the locker room. So he is contributing in many ways that we might not see. But the thing that's always going to hang over him is it's always going to be some sort of disappointment when we talk about the 2024 promise, when he was one of those big free agents that were brought in and just fell flat. He's playing better. He looks like one of the more decent defensemen out there right now, but it's just not going to match up to what he was brought on in the first place. And then you have Adam Wilsby and Justin Barron, in my opinion, who are just, at this point, I think you need to, specifically Justin Barron, you need to send him down to Milwaukee, and you need to bring Ryan Ufko up because you need to get some sort of boost on the bottom pairing or the bottom four, because he just hasn't done anything. And they're getting on the whole thing where they're just healthy scratching him night in and night out. And then Adam Wilsby, I mean, I don't know. He's had one good game this year. He hasn't done much. And it's just the whole thing of maybe this is like this. These are guys that, and I think this is an episode we'll talk about tomorrow but like, these are guys at the deadline where you might want to move them and see if you can get other pieces for completely. Cause they're just, I mean, what do they bring up completely? What do they add to this team, and what do they do to make this defense better? That's my whole spiel on the defense. And we're reaching the 30-minute points of this last segment. It's probably going to be pretty short. But before we get into the last segment, I want to talk to you guys about the Everyday Club. Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everyday Club today and get Locked On Predators with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonpredators.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about what the Predators need to be doing and what's critical. So we're going to talk about the Ottawa game and just how important this game against the Senators is going to be when we're talking about the context of the Predators staying in this wild card race. So Ottawa's back in town, and this is the second time that the Predators are meeting in this season. The first meeting of the year, and this wraps up the season series because the East teams, they only meet them twice. First meeting was the third game of the season, and that was when, if you guys remember, all the way back to yonder, they won their first game of the year against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They lost in overtime to the Utah Mammoth the second game, and then the third game, which was the start of a road trip, they won it. So the Predators at this time were 2-0-1. If it shows you how long ago this was, Jonathan Marchessault had 2 goals in this game, and he has just been not great lately for them. He's not been great all year for them, but hey, the beginning of the year here, he had a 2-goal game. And then right after this game, it was a 4-1 win over Ottawa in Ottawa. Right after this game, the Predators lost 4 straight on this road trip. It was not a good road trip. And this kind of led into the misery that was October, and then if not halfway through November. And as of right now, the Predators are trying to avoid getting on another losing streak. That being, they have dropped a game to Vegas in Vegas. That was the 7-2 loss. The game on Tuesday, which was to the Buffalo Sabres, that was a 5-3 loss. And now they need to get going in this game. They cannot drop this game, or else things get a little bit more critical and start doing a little bit more backtracking back into October and November. Hopefully that is not the case for them. I think I saw a comment that said they were Jekyll and hiding a little bit more now, which I think is just you're seeing 2 different teams throughout the year. And I'm assuming that this is the Dr. Jekyll part of it, which no one likes Dr. Jekyll. I was going to sing. Do you guys know the Jekyll Hyde song from Arthur? Anytime I hear that now, or hear like anything associated with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. No, Mr. Hyde's the bad one. So this is the Mr. Hyde part of the year. And then the Dr. Jekyll part's, I guess, the good part of the year. But there's a song in Arthur that's like, it's an earbug. If you guys want to look it up, it's like, I can't sing it because I don't want this to get copyright struck or anything like that. But anytime I hear like Jekyll or Hyde, that comes to my head immediately. And it's probably going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the episode. And I clearly don't understand the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the Predators trying to get out of this losing streak, or trying to avoid a longer one. And these were the first back-to-back games that they have lost since mid-November. And then what had happened was, once they had lost these back-to-back games, that's when this whole streak happened in around Thanksgiving up until recently, where they were winning 2, losing 1, winning 1, losing 1, winning 3, losing 1. They had not lost back-to-back games in a very long stretch. And this is the first time they've lost back-to-back games in that stretch. But that's going to happen. I mean, that's the year, that's the season. It's just when you're in this part of the year, you just can't let it continue. You don't want to go on a really bad losing streak, especially now where the playoff race is so tight. You can't get in. You can't fall into that at all. Talking about the playoff race and the wild card race right now. And again, I understand it's January, but it's so tight right now, y'all. And the Predators, if they lose this game, the task becomes so much more harder. They have 3 teams that are in front of them that are 3 teams that are in front of them. And these 3 teams have a 3-point edge on the Predators. All 3 of them have the same amount of points. They all have 53 points. That is Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Jose. Well, if they win, they don't move in the standings. They essentially just pull up 1 point closer to everyone else. But if they lose, they don't move at all. And I should add that the Flames and the Blackhawks are 3 points behind the Predators. So if the Predators continue losing, those 2 teams could catch up to them as well. And just they're in a place right now where winning or losing won't move them. But if it's essentially the one thing, if you stay in the spot you are for too long, people are going to catch up. or you're just going to fall, and you're going to fall behind the pack. And they can't be falling behind the pack right now. Again, I mentioned it's January, but the playoff race for that final wildcard spot has been so tight. Like, you can't give anybody anything. And they're clearly giving every team in the Pacific Division right now something. That can't happen. That needs to end here so they can continue making this push here. Looking at Ottawa, they've won 3 of their last 5, and they are riding a 5-game point streak. Those 2 losses they had were overtime losses to Montreal and Detroit, who are Atlantic Division leaders. Detroit, I believe, has the best record in the Atlantic Division. Their last one was a 4-1 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they have some guys that are really carrying them this year. Tim Stützle, who has 22 goals, 29 assists, 51 points. Drake Batherson, 19 goals, 25 assists for 44 points. And then Jake Sanderson on the back end, that is 10 points, 10 goals, 29 assists for 44 points. I know it seems like there's some discussion here and there about where Sanderson would be available and if you could pick him up essentially. And he would be a massive pickup if the Predators could get him and bringing up that defense. That would be a clutch pickup for the Predators and bringing up that defensive effort, as I talked about in this fence and the segment before, of getting a guy that's going to give him a boost. He would be huge, but I don't know if he wants to leave Ottawa. And if he is leaving Ottawa, I don't know if he'd want to go to Nashville. Ottawa is averaging 3.27 goals per game, and that's kind of around the area that Nashville is giving up. And they also have the 7th best power play in the league at 23.9%. So similar to what's going on in the playoff race, you just can't be giving teams anything. And in this case, you can't be taking dumb penalties and be giving Ottawa chances to go on the power play. And you can't backtrack again, like the last episode. You cannot backtrack into what this team's identity was back in October of, oh, we're a team that comes back. We're a team that lives and dies on the penalty kill. Like, we just cannot get back into that. That drove me nuts, y'all. That drove me crazy because you just can't have the penalty kill carry you every night. And they finally got away from that. And it's not looking like that it's going to happen anytime soon, but in the sense of like not skepticism, the opposite of skepticism, and being superstitious with everything, and them backtracking a little bit and losing a little bit more, and seeing the comeback ideology return. You hope that the whole live and die on the penalty kill thing doesn't continue. But Ottawa has a lot to gain out of this, as they are also in a wild card battle right now. A win puts them 3 points outside of the wild card in the East. But that game will be played 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday at Bridgestone Arena tonight for y'all. Be a fun game. Roman Josi 1K, big celebration. Must win, in my opinion, for the Preds. And we're keeping an eye out for that Mammoth game that is going to be happening on Saturday. Whether or not the NHL will choose to move that, will choose to move the start time up. It will be interesting to see what happens here, because if any of you have been living under a rock, we're getting some really big winter weather here in Nashville. And from what I've been told by just about everyone here, Nashville doesn't handle winter weather very well, and that makes sense. It's just this area is not built for the infrastructure to have blizzards and bad winter weather storms like, say, a Chicago or a Detroit or a Minneapolis does. So preparation for that is happening right now. If you guys have not gone to Kroger or Publix, or we went to Target today, please do go and get your stuff, because it's supposed to be nasty on Saturday. But enjoy the game Thursday. I unfortunately will not be at the game, but I will be keeping tabs on it completely. I will be subbing in for the GOAT, Teresa Walker, at the Vanderbilt women's basketball game on the West End. So I will be in the area, just not at Bridgestone. She is currently on IR right now, out of action. So I'll be subbing in for her for a few games for the Associated Press. She'll be back very soon. But I will not be at the Ottawa game. But again, I'll be keeping close tabs. Be writing the stories for y'all, be talking about it y'all after the game. I'll have a podcast for y'all that we can talk about what had happened that night. Hopefully it's all good news and I'm not ranting. But that's all I got. Another long episode for y'all. I apologize. I'll wrap up here quick so we can stay at 40 flat. Find me on Twitter at Jack G. Williams. Find me on the Hockey News Nashville Predators, Jack Williams. If you guys are interested, just on Locked On, LO_Predators on Twitter /X, Facebook, and Instagram, which is Locked On Predators. And then, hey, you guys are really liking the podcast, join the Everydayer Club. It's ad-free audio, members-only Discord access, $50 a year, $5 a month. That's all I got for y'all. Looking forward to chatting with you guys after the Ottawa game. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast.